All right. Of course, a topic that us Tesla investors have been wanting to learn more about is what's happening with Tesla stock. It seems to be in a doldrums. We're not sure. A lot of people are losing their conviction. You can see it happening right in front of our eyes. So what I wanted to do today is go through each of the major businesses that Tesla's in, do a little bit of a state of the union, right? State of the nation, where we're at with each of them. So I've got Hans Nelson joining us. What I want to do is ask you, Hans, kind of, what's happening with energy, FSD, bots. A lot of people are feeling like nothing's going to happen this year. So that's just walk us through every single division that these guys have. What is the potential probability analysis of where they're at? Welcome, Hans. Thank you for joining.
Thanks for having me, Herbert.
So let's go through this list, right? So, let's start with, we know that in Q4 earnings that just, released, energy was very, very exciting. It was, there's some parts of it that was actually surprisingly that it's growing, highest profitability, but other parts of it was a little lumpier. But most of people I'm talking to today are expecting big things for this coming next 3 quarters here, and that is being underrepresented by the institutional investors and just investors in general. What's your thinking about the energy?
I'm really excited about energy for a couple of reasons. First of all, is because a lot of people do really kind of underestimate its long-term potential. Um, so the key indicator really to watch on Tesla Energy is just deployments. That because of the complexity of the energy market, there's a lot of delays in recognizing when that revenue actually can be received by Tesla. And that creates some of the lumpiness that we saw in this past quarter. And it also allows for there to be uncertainty in the marketplace about how big this is actually going to be long term. And for those reasons, the Tesla stock will be rewarded for the performance of Tesla Energy when those net profits are recognized. And right now we have a gap between hardware is installed and now we have to wait 6 months, we have to wait a year, we have to wait 18 months, maybe we have to wait 2 years before all of the revenue can be recognized for those projects, because right now, there's this process called interconnect, which an energy company can purchase and take delivery of Tesla Megapacks. And those Tesla Megapacks, they can basically do the setup of all of them, but then they're just going to sit there and they're not going to be connected to the actual grid until whoever operates the grid in that area can approve it to be connected to their grid, and they can have everything that they need on their end set up so that that Megapack installation can play nicely with everything that they have going on, because it's very, very complicated to manage an electric grid. And while these batteries do have a lot of benefits that they actually give to these grid providers, it's definitely not an easy, simple, we just build it today and then when we're done getting everything installed, we plug it in and everything's hunky-dory. For some of those are engineering and technical reasons, but then a lot of those reasons are really just about paperwork and regulations and bureaucracy that kind of takes over all these things as well. So basically, all of that just slows this process down. And so Tesla's put in the work. They have sold these, these are mega packs that they are going to recognize this revenue on. They just can't yet today. And so, it just creates this lag in the financials. And so one of the things that we have seen is very, very consistent and exponentially growing deployments of Tesla Megapacks. So as long as, for me, why I'm excited about it is I'm looking at those deployments, I'm seeing them growing consistently and exponentially. And so that I know several years from now, we will actually start to see not only, will they get revenue from the initial sales, that they'll finally be able to recognize that, but then they will actually be able to have ongoing revenue as they have more and more of these installed from the VPP software or whatever, energy management software they end up having on those devices. So all of that's going to be super exciting long term. And then, this is the complexity of the US thing. Now, we also know that we just expanded and now they're building a mega pack factory in Shanghai. And I expect now
Mhm.
that they have Lathrop ramped up and going and moving well, that we will probably actually see additional installations, not just Shanghai, but there should be a follow on here in the next
Announcements.
year
Yeah.
to 2 years that we'll get more of these things. And, one of the things that I'm excited to see, I've talked to several people on this. We don't really have clarity on what the regulatory environment is going to look like in China. But one of the things that we know is they are moving aggressively forward on lots of energy things, and they are basically clearing out all of the red tape and hurdles. So, for
Mhm.
example, they're building hundreds of nuclear power plants. And in order for them to build all of those and get them connected to the grid and get everything up and running, obviously they're cutting through a lot of this red tape. And so if we can see the same reduction in red tape that China's doing in nuclear with these battery storage products, it could be that as Giga Shanghai ramps up, that they're able to recognize most of the revenue from the sales of those mega packs much, much, much sooner. And so it's very possible that we could be in a scenario where we're starting to see the revenue uptick in energy from two factories all hitting at the same time. That even though the US, the Lathrop factory has
Was
been ramped
delayed.
up and going, that we'll
Mhm.
actually see revenue flowing through from both of those things at the same time, which would be massive. Like investors would be shocked at just
Yeah.
how much revenue all of a sudden that we could be turning on overnight if that ends up being the case. It could be that those revenues from Shanghai are also going to be delayed. We just don't know. But I think that there's at least a good reason to suspect that we'll see financial results much faster from that factory. And then, as additional, and really, we just need one factory to end up having all of those financials flow through for then the rest of the Wall Street to be able to model, okay, what is the
Yeah.
profitability of one megapack factory operating at however, 10, 20 gigawatt hours a year. Because once they have that, then they have something concrete that they can plug into their spreadsheets and they can say, okay, we're going to multiply that for, one time for Lathrop, one time for Shanghai, one time for the one that they set up in India, one time for the one that they set up over in Europe. And then a lot of
Yeah, the
that
numbers
value will
look.
actually end up getting assigned to the company all at that time.
Okay, so very, very good points, right? So obviously, energy is such a powerful story for Tesla's, story and what's happening to Tesla, but it's not being recognized, even though they're succeeding. And so you're very, very bullish on what's going to happen. What about the next 3 weeks, 3 quarters, though? What's going to happen this year? Is it just we're going to wait till next year before these things happen, or is there something that might happen for energy this year?
So I wouldn't expect a whole lot to happen, but I think there is room for some upside surprise because we have seen this lumpiness, and
Mm-hmm.
last quarter was actually a down quarter
Mm-hmm.
in revenue recognition. We could have one, like I think it's at least 40 to 50% likely that we will have a surprisingly good quarter for
Okay.
revenue recognition in the next 3 quarters. And I think that would be very positive outlook overall for energy. I think part of it is just going to be a factor from the noisiness in this data. So that's why I look at deployments. Like it won't be a surprise to me and it won't make me overly excited. I think it will make the market overly excited if they see a real big quarter and then the next quarter is going to be down again. And so,
Yeah.
I'm trying to look at the fundamentals of the leading
Mhm.
indicators that are going to drive that revenue in the long term and just, trying to watch for
Okay.
consistent growth there. But yeah, I think the market could have a very surprisingly positive reaction to an unexpectedly large print in energy revenues in the next year. And then, the other thing to see or to pay attention is just to the competitive landscape. And we do know that there's a very large battery that's being put in Australia. We know that obviously Tesla sold a lot of batteries in Australia, and they've done a lot of piloting of good projects there. But there is a new large battery that's being installed that is not made by Tesla. And so it's I believe a Chinese manufacturer of an energy storage battery product. And so it's also good to see that the economics of this use case are proven out to the point that other people are really trying to play in this space. And it's good that we have more players. Just like we don't want Tesla to be the only auto manufacturer, we also don't really want Tesla to be the only energy
Mhm.
storage manufacturer, because energy storage is a huge piece, just in the overall mission of advancing the world to a sustainable energy future. We really need lots and lots and lots and lots of grid storage batteries. And so it's good that Tesla can supply as much of that as possible, but we need as many people, as many battery manufacturers, many energy companies as we can get on board to help fulfill this need, so that in 2035 and in 2040 we can have 2 cents a kilowatt hour instead of 12 cents, 15 cents, 20 cents, 30 cents, 50 cents with inflation. Like, that's what we need.
All right, good. Very thorough conversation about energy. Let's talk bots. So, humanoid bots, I think most people are now recognizing that Tesla has just screamed through the progress here. They started off late. They've shown in Gen 1, they've shown a Gen 2, which is very, very impressive. If not, most people saying now that they are the leaders in the hardware. They show that the bot can actually do training of AI. And we're waiting for new, videos. But he also said, which is incredibly powerful, I thought he said on the earnings call that, we expect to ship some number of Optimus next year. He had said that to 2025. What's your expectation for the bot? And, is this yet another one of those things where we need to wait till next year? It's going to take a long time. Or is there anything that can happen this year that's going to shock in terms of what people are thinking about the stock?
I expect to see consistent updates. So I'm not going to be surprised at all. Like, it seems like we're getting at least one bot video of some variety every month. And then some of those are even more, high production value, more informative as far as what we learn from them. But almost, every month we're getting something. And I think that's going to continue for the rest of this year. They're going to continue to show us advancements, whatever that looks like for that month. We're going to see what they're working on. So that's really good news for us who are kind of tuned into the state of the technology, so that we can kind of gauge how quickly is this moving. What's the timeline look like? I would be surprised if there's any meaningful uplift to the stock from TeslaBot this year. But I think that this is definitely the biggest opportunity that Tesla's pursuing over the long term. That the potential of artificially intelligence powered humanoid form factor robots is the biggest market that anyone in business, period, is going to be pursuing today. And I think Tesla's in a great position. And so I think people should really just try and observe Tesla's progress relative to competitors. And this is, also a way that I think people should look at FSD. The question is not, is FSD going to be done this year? The question is, what is the status of FSD in comparison to all of their competitors? Are they working with the right architecture? And are they the leader in that architecture? I would argue that the answers to both of those questions are yes. One of the reasons that I'm very excited about Tesla, the company. The same thing can be applied to Tesla's Optimus robot. Are they building the correct architecture of the physical architecture, the humanoid form factor? Is it correct? Is it low cost? Is it easy to produce? Does it have all of the physical capabilities that it needs to have in order to do general tasks? And once again, I would say yes, like we see other companies, whether it's Figure AI, whether it's Sanctuary, whether you want to say Boston Dynamics and the Atlas robot, like all of these companies and, a host of others, Giant AI, they're all building hardware. In every single one of those instances, the hardware that they're building does not signify to me that it's even close to being ready for mass manufacturing of hundreds of thousands, potentially millions, potentially even hundreds of millions of robots. Optimus, far and away, from my assessment, is the most general, low-cost, physical humanoid robot platform that I'm aware of today. Nothing else looks like it could be like, you know, the question in my mind would be next year, if they felt like they had all the pieces in place, could they make 100,000 of those robots? And the answer for any of the other companies we talked about, I would say, is no. And for Tesla, I would say Optimus Gen 2 easily could make 100,000 robots next year if they really wanted to. Now, is that the right move strategically long term for them to make? Probably not. There's a lot of work left to do on software. And so then if we move over to the software question, you just have to assess, are they working with the leading artificial intelligence architectures in a way that is intelligent and competitive with their peers? And once again, when I look at that, I would say yes. Like, they're not necessarily leaders in the field of AI powered robotics. They are trying to apply work that has been done by a lot of other people, both in academics and industry, to their platform, but they're able to actually get really high quality results very quickly from wherever those developments are made, and then apply them to the Optimus project. So I would say that they are definitely number one on a general hardware platform, and they are on par with everyone else from a software perspective. And we also just can observe in other areas that they're exceptional at software. And so as an investor, I can assume that they can stay, basically on par. And, maybe they are second. Maybe this is more of an Apple approach where someone else figures out the leading bleeding edge, like a lot of times happens on Android for mobile phone software, that it'll be Samsung or LG or some other company that will release this exciting new feature and capability. And then, it may take a couple of years for Apple to adopt that. But when they do, it is seamlessly integrated into this entire ecosystem and executed at a much higher level than the, first prototype iteration of that by whoever else made that. If Tesla can maintain that type of position with their software while leading on the best, most general purpose hardware, and when I say best, what I'm talking about is most general, most scalable, most manufacturable with the lowest possible cost, because that's going to be the thing that wins at the end of the day. That other people will be able to make robots that will, they can make profitably, where the cost of goods on that robot may be higher, but they're not going to be able to ramp up scale of that and have an overall impact on the marketplace, because the companies that are going to have the most dramatic impact on society and in return are going to be rewarded the most financially are going to be the ones who ship the most robots. Like, that's pretty much what it boils down to. And so you want to be thinking about who can ship the most robots.
So a couple just replies to what you said. So everything just absolutely dead on, except for small little things. So first of all, most people believe that nothing's going to happen to Tesla stock this year because of the bot, because it's very early on. It's going to require till next year when they actually roll out small numbers, and then the following year when they start creating larger numbers, and that's when the investment community will catch on. I actually don't think that that's what's going to happen this year. I think that this year there's going to be a chance for the stock to actually recognize Tesla as a robotics AI company, to then change the conversation, not just a car company, but actually a robotics AI. And just through demos. Now, the other bit that you said, which is, they're behind in software, that's not what I see. The reason I believe that is because you're right that today they are just showing you, large language model, and they're applying it, and they're using what they knew with FSD and they're applying it. And they're now able to show you that they can do end-to-end training of an AI, in this case, flipping the blocks over. Many other companies are showing lots of demos about that. The difference, though, is Tesla has massive data centers that others don't have. And if they could feed it with massive data, which I don't know where they're going to get that from, but if they can do that to take advantage of this, then they could have a leap in intelligence that others may not. Like every time you see some other people do it, they're doing very teleoperation of a very specific task, and then they show you that, oh, now the bot can do it too. Tesla can do the same thing, but there might be a leap that can happen because they have the massive data centers that others don't. And if you look at what Tesla's doing right now, and you look at their job boards, you'll be shocked. And I know you're following this closely, like I am. How many people they're hiring for
Yep.
Tesla Bot? They're doing night shifts. They're doing manufacturing. They're already announced that there's a production line for the bot. Um, they wouldn't be hiring all those people, like literally hundreds and hundreds, if this wasn't progressing the way that they thought it should be. I do agree with you that the Gen 2 hardware looks like it's already solidified. There's going to be a Gen 3, no doubt, but they're already at the point, if you look at how they designed Gen 2, that it's already at the point where they're ready to make many more of this rather than just manually created by hand, hundreds. No, they're ready to do it. Whether they scale this year or next year, like he said, we'll ship some number next year. So he just threw water over, it's not going to be 1,000 this year, 10,000. No, but there's going to be demos. And when they showed a demo of the brain being able to do things and learning, the one thing that Tesla has that others don't is the, just like because all their cars have it, is not just the occupancy network, but this whole general world model of actually understanding through vision what it's seeing. Others haven't shown that they can do this, right? Like if you walk into a factory, do you actually know that that's a tire and that's a wrench? And like it knows that it is, as opposed to it's just been trained to grab this thing and then try to turn this this nut on this thing that's it doesn't know what it's doing. It's just grabbing and turning. That's it. This case, it actually knows. So if the tire is somewhere else in a factory, it can go and find the tire and pick up the tire, not anything else, because it actually knows what it is. Anyways, I think that maybe that could happen this year. If not, that's fine. It'll be a couple of years out. But I just think that if there's anything that can shock the market and change Tesla's trajectory for the stock this year, it's going to be the Tesla bot, more so than Robotaxi. So let's talk about that next. So if FSD version 12, right? They rolled it out to 15,000 employees. They gave it to Homar's blog to play with version 12. They didn't even share it with some of the other early beta users that normally get it right off the bat. People like Chuck Cook hasn't had it yet. So there's reasons why they're holding it back. So there's a delay there. But let's say that it is rolled out to all of us and we get to play with version 12 and it's the first end-to-end neural net autonomy. And we're already seeing that it's going to be the answer and it's going to progress. But even if it does significantly leap this year, people will discount it still. Investors will still discount it because, we need to see Robotaxi. And Robotaxi is years and years away because of regulatory or whatever it is. So that's why I think the bot is the one that has the most chance to change the stock's trajectory this year. I mean, it's a low chance, but it's the only one that could happen. What's your thinking about
There's a
FSD
couple
12?
before we go to FSD 12, there's a couple of interesting dynamics at play with the robot. So the first, an area where Tesla has an opportunity to leapfrog into the forefront of software is the fact that they do have experience building up the data engine for the development of FSD. And the data engine for FSD is
It's the same.
One of the most advanced, most complex data engines, especially as it pertains to an AI platform interacting with the real world. And that is an asset that has, both from a hardware and a software and just an overall data architecture standpoint, all of that could be extremely valuable. And if it requires the majority of the data to be sourced from the real world, that advantage will compound immensely to Tesla and to the Optimus project and put them leaps and bounds ahead of any other manufacturer of robots, because having had the experience of building that up in the past, they will be able to build up their own internal one for the bot and potentially even leverage quite a bit of what they're using and developed for FSD in that system. The one area that is kind of an open question that we don't know the answer to yet that could level the playing field between Tesla and other competitors is the solving of what's called the sim to real gap. And so if, one of the things that Elon has been very vocal about and basically said that simulated data is mostly worthless for FSD. And not like you can use it there. It has like Tesla's definitely doing it. They're simulating. It has its use cases, but it cannot be the core piece that you're relying on to develop your software for FSD specifically, because FSD is safety critical. There are so many potential edge cases, and you just cannot properly generate all of the edge cases necessary to create a safe FSD system without real data. This is not necessarily going to be the case for robotics, that there's so much valuable economic work that can be done by an AI powered robot in a structured environment with very low variability. And so it really moves the threshold down a long ways and potentially makes this sim data much more valuable relative to the overall data mix compared to FSD. And so that's one of those questions. And now that doesn't mean that Tesla couldn't also be at the forefront of solving the sim to real gap, where whatever you train in simulation takes minimal adjustment in order to put it into a real robot in the real world and have it be able to operate effectively. And there's lots of work that's being done in this area that's very exciting. There's a number of researchers who have shown that you can train a neural net like 98% of the way to where it needs to be in order to operate in a real robot in the real world. And that there's this very small additional piece of work that needs to be done, is basically this, what they call a shim layer, to operate in between that network that was trained in simulation, and for it to make all the adjustments that it needs to actually operate in a robot that, maybe its motors are not perfectly to spec and all the tolerances aren't just so, and, maybe the friction on the ground feels a little bit different. And so like fine little things that they can solve. So that's where there is an opportunity for other manufacturers of AI powered robots to not have to overcome the same hurdles that a competitor to FSD is going to have to overcome. Like, this is one of the reasons it's going to be very difficult for a Waymo to follow on to Tesla in short order. It's one of the challenges that I think that George Hotz is really focused on at Comma AI, on, how do we get as much of this data engine built up as possible to where we can solve some of the same neural net challenges that Tesla's solving in FSD. So now shifting to, the last thing I want to say before we shift to FSD V12 is I think that there's huge opportunity this year for Tesla to show the Optimus actually, like, if Tesla by the end of the year can demo an Optimus Gen 2 doing a full 8-hour shift's worth of work, replacing, if one bot can do the job of one human for one full shift by the end of the year, that is a huge demo. And that demo actually has a very large potential to be reflected in a large way by the stock. And so I would, I'm very hopeful. I think that is a very feasible, once they get the locomotion stuff and the stability of the robot in a factory type setting, to where it can walk around all day long and never fall down. That is one huge hurdle that has to be solved. Once they can move, if we can solve that, and I think it's very reasonable that we could solve that in the next 3 months.
They're going to solve it this year. This is what I'm saying,
then,
right? What I've been saying, and I strongly believe this, that investors don't need to wait. People always say, I need to see the revenue flowing. I need to see contracts with factories. I need to see bots being made in thousands. I want to see them in the shifts. And then you tell me how much money you're charging them for it. And then now I can see how much money you're going to make. And therefore, I'm going to now bump up your stock price, but only then, 3-5 years from now. I don't think that that's the case. I think that is the case with FSD, but not the case for robots. I think robots
Yeah.
specifically is something that humans intrinsically understand the value of a robot. It's almost like you don't even, it takes you 2 seconds, 2 minutes to explain to an average investor that robots is going to be a very profitable business. And then
Yeah.
they know the jobs they can do. They can, they can name you 20 of them right off the bat, and in fact debate you in which ones they think they should do first. But and then they know that, so it's like, it's not, they don't need to be convinced. And I think that the stock could reflect it sooner than you need thousands of bots out there and all that. I that's my only belief. I don't know, I just think
Yep.
that there's going to be some measure of people who believe I'm going to invest now instead of wait for 2 years before it's actually, in place.
Well, especially if we see those demos being done at the same time as there's some other exciting demo. Like if the general market happens to be really excited
Oh,
about
yeah.
AI powered robotics around the same time that you get a demo like that, I mean, that
Yeah.
could be
I
huge. It,
mean,
it could be much
these
more like
demos
a dot
are
com
going
bubble type
viral.
market
Yeah.
reaction. Yeah.
These demos of bots that are dropping weekly from all sorts of companies are going viral. Everybody knows what's going on. My wife can see all these other bots and she's watching them and she doesn't give a, hoots about these things. And yet
Mhm.
she sees them in Instagram and others. So anyway, so that's
Yeah.
as opposed to robotaxi, which is surprisingly nobody's really paying attention to it as much except for us. So tell me about chances for FSD version 12 this year, and what's the chance of its impact to the stock this year?
Yeah, so I'm very excited about FSD V12. I think it's the right architecture, but I am not super surprised to see that we're taking a little bit of extra time right here. One of the announcements that I have been waiting for that we have not yet seen is confirmation that even the employee base that has access to FSD Beta V12 has been expanded beyond California and the West Coast. And so, given that we haven't even had confirmation that employees outside of that geography have access to FSD Beta V12, I'm not at all surprised that customers outside of Omar, who's really honestly an extension of the FSD Beta testing team, um, that it hasn't moved beyond that circle of testers yet. The reason for that is I'm sure that they are discovering interesting, anomalous, unexpected, safety critical issues with the system that they just have to get solved. And they're totally going to be solvable issues. Um, all of this will get worked out, but it may take a good little bit. Like this is an extension of the in-house trial of FSD V12. And we don't necessarily need to read into the timeline that it takes us to get from internal trials of FSD V12 to what the timeline looks like once we really do roll that out to customers and be expanding the overall availability of FSD Beta V12 to anyone in the country. So I think people need to discount this little pause and wait for when we first see that rolled out to customers. How long does it take from then to when every customer in the country who wants it can have access to it? That will be the test of how fast is this technology really going to progress moving forward. Because if it takes us 6 months for the first customers really to have access to it, but then we start seeing weekly updates with performance improvements, well, that's a very exciting, promising outlook. I would take that over the first customers getting FSD Beta V12 this month, but then we don't see an update in either the number of people who have access to it or the functionality of the system for 2 months. Like that would be a worse scenario in my mind. And the reason for that is that those are two different exponential curves. So the
Mhm.
first one that I described is an exponential curve that is going vertically very fast in improvements in the capability of the system and the availability of it to the most customers possible. And the second one, even though we start it sooner, it's just a much slower build. And so I think that's what people should be paying attention to. Obviously, there's tons of opportunity for V12 to perform extremely well, beat expectations. Because I think right now we're just in a place of wait and see. We are in the pit of despair, or the trough of despair, whatever you want to call it, in the Gartner hype cycle, that we were really excited about it, and then now we're down into the, oh, this is terrible, nothing's ever going to work. And then, we're going to get to a point where it is not investment advice, but my personal opinion is that it is inevitable that Tesla will make lots and lots and lots of SaaS revenue. And I did not say robotaxis there. I said SaaS revenue based on software that will be deployed in the vehicles, some of which will be advanced driver assistance based. Is there some rideshare capability in there? Quite possibly. That would be incredibly exciting if it were true, but we do not have to have level 5 robotaxi fleets in order for Tesla to make a boatload of money off of shipping software to their installed fleet.
Wonderful. Yeah, I agree with you completely there. Just one point would be that there's things that you and I are looking for, because we're closely following this, to know what this is the real thing. And then there's the things that the investor, the retail investor, whether or not that's going to impact the stock or not, that they, that part is harder for me to understand. Like, even if there's thousands of videos of all of us going, my God, this thing's solved, I still don't know if the Tesla, if regular investors out there will start bidding up the stock because they realize this is a real deal. There's that milestone that needs to happen. Is there a ChatGPT moment for Tesla FSD? That's the question. And it's harder to find that.
I have an opinion on this. It's complete speculation and opinion. I think that ChatGPT moment is the moment where Tesla offers anyone in North America a 100% free trial for 1 month of the FSD, whether it's beta at that point in time or not, but the FSD software, that you can try it for a month, 2 months, whatever. And we're just going to give it to you, let you try it out, because that signals a point that Tesla is extremely comfortable. Like, all of the signals that I'm seeing from Tesla about who gets access and when are all signals that tell me that Tesla's not 100% comfortable with the overall safety of the system. That once they have a system that is safer than the average human, unsupervised, and that's the key. Like, it has to be, right now we know that it's safer than a human supervised. That's great. That is a valuable system. But once it's safer than a human unsupervised, then they can put it in every car, and they can know that it will improve the safety of that car. And so it is of safety benefit to Tesla to deploy it to the maximum number of vehicles. And once they don't incur extra liability by exposing themselves to additional safety risk by deploying the system wider, then they can explore all sorts of fun, interesting pricing strategies in order to maximize revenue off of every single vehicle in the fleet to some level. And I think they absolutely will do that. And I think that free trial, in my mind, is the signal that once I see that, I'm going to know that the game is on, and I'm going to be expecting the revenue profile of Tesla as a company to radically transform in the ensuing year, 2-3 years.
Wonderful. That's a great idea. I like it. Thank you so much, Hans. Follow him on his YouTube channel. So we talked about energy, we talked about bots, and we talked about FSD. We'll see which one of these actually bump the stock this year. If not, it's going to be certainly the next few years. And I guess that's the story, right? Thank you so much. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.